Om. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vedya Dravidam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Om Bhadram Karne Vishnuyama Devaha Bhadram Pashe Makshabhirya Jatraha Sthiraya Rangai Sushtuvagum Sastanubihi Vyashema Devahitam Yadayuhu Swasti na Indro Vridhashravaha Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedaha Swasti nastarsho Arishtanemihi Swasti no Brahaspatir Datatu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we're making our way through the second chapter titled Vaitatya, falseness. And what we worked on last week was this comparison between the waking state and the dream state. This is the primary way in which Vedanta invites us to break down the habit idea, the concrete idea. I'm an individual person and the world of name and form is separate from me, inherently substantial and concrete, and most importantly, joy-giving or misery-producing. And the idea that Gaudapada is working on is the only thing that's real, remember with the capital R, what's our definition of what's real?
That which cannot be negated.
That which is never subject to negation. So if it has prior non-existence and it appears to exist in the middle and then has subsequent non-existence, you look at it from layers. At first, it's impermanent. Why be attached to it? But at the deeper level, it comes about by means of imagination, sankalpena, and that radical notion in the fourth karika, where he basically says the phenomenal world is quite unreal, and the proof of its unreality is what?
See it.
It is cognizable. it is seeable, it is knowable. Only the subject is the eternal factor, that which is non-negatable. All right, what verse are we on for this week, Mark?
9.
All right, will you help us out, please, Puneet?
So 9 and 10 are together.
Okay.
Swapna vrittavapi tvanta chetasa kalpitam tvasat bahishcheto grihitam sat drishtam vaitatya metayoho jagrat vrittavapi tvanta chetasa kalpitam tvasat bahishcheto grihitam sat. Uktam vaitatyam etayoho. In the dream also, first one. In the dream also, what is imagined by the dreamer within his mind is illusory, and what is cognized by him outside in the dream appears to be real. But in truth, both these are known to be unreal, as both belong to the dream. Similarly, in the waking state also, what is imagined within by the mind is considered illusory, and what is experienced outside by the mind appears to be real. But both these, in fact, should be rationally held to be equally unreal.
So the idea here is this: if you close your eyes and envision an elephant, you know that's imaginary. You open your eyes, you see the sofa, you see the table, you see the lamp. Well, that's real. But in the dream, you can have what you perceive in the dream as an imagination. And then the dream body is a locus of perception, is what I call it. It's the place from which I look out at the dream world. Let's use a concrete example. Who had a dream last night or recently?
I did.
What did you dream?
I dreamt that I was in a new job and I was not super comfortable there.
Okay, so inside you had thoughts and feelings, discomfort, maybe some anxiety, some fear or something.
Yes.
Okay, so you know those are just mental thoughts, right?
Yes.
And to the dreamer, they were mental thoughts.
Yes.
Outside, I assume there was an office, maybe a computer on the desk or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So to the dreamer, you had inside and outside. But to the dreamer, the phenomena on the outside, which you cognize from the locus of perception, the dream mully, seen from the viewpoint of the waker, both the interior imagined experiences and the exterior phenomena are nothing but imagination. That's his point. Then he goes on to say, this is no different. How do you know you're not dreaming right now? For all that you know, in 10 minutes, you're going to wake up in your bed and it's the middle of the night. Oh, I dreamed I was in satsang over at Jim's. Now, again, we have to be very clear about something. Who is doing which dream? I like to say you are the god of your dream. The dream that you have at night, swapna, is inside your own mind. I am not privy to your dream. I was not there in your job. But Ishvara is dreaming all this. I like to say if you get hit by a bus, the speed of light does not disappear. Yet, for example, everybody here in my living room, look at the bowl on the coffee table. And we call it a bowl. We call it it's made out of brass. We say that there's enamel of various colors inside the bowl. But you have no way of knowing that what I am perceiving is what you're perceiving. We've just agreed on the terminology. Not only that, you know what you're seeing is upside down. Images hit the lens in your eye and they're turned upside down. And they're upside down when they hit your retina. And then your brain turns them right side up. So in truth, all we really know is what our individual perception is. What Gaudapada wants us to understand is break down this rigid, solid conviction that the world is exterior, external, and inherently joy-giving, misery-producing. You are an eternal factor. And you never change. You're absolutely safe. Always. That is not something to take on faith if you inquire, if you really look. In the mind, introvert the attentive faculty, notice the knower. You tell me what's there. Is it a changing person? Or is it, as Shankara says, Chidananda-rupam? My nature is just bliss consciousness. You don't become it. You don't achieve it. You don't attain it. You don't merge into it. You have always been that. It's just my stupid mind had all these weird ideas. Any thoughts on this?
So what he's saying is the world is like sights, sounds, and smells plus mental projections. And the mental projections part is the imagination.
No. The sight, sounds, and smells is imagination. The Buddhists will say the phenomenal world is real. It's my superimpositions that are illusory. Vedanta says that's one layer of superimposition. But the sights, sounds, and smells aren't real either. Because you have sights, sounds, and smells in the dream. Are they real?
No.
This is no different. And not all Buddhists would say that, but some schools of Buddhism posit that there is a real phenomenal world.
But I suppose there's no getting away from the sight smells. Like it's kind of like the mirage in the world. You still perceive the mirage.
I like to use the example because I ride public transportation. If I get on the BART at the West Oakland BART station, have you ever gotten on the BART there? Yes?
Yeah.
You look down the tracks. and they meet in the distance. Even though I know it's an optical illusion, they're really parallel. That doesn't keep them from looking like they're meeting in the distance.
So the meeting in the distance and concluding that they are somehow going to kill you or something is the imagination. But the perception that, that you're seeing something is happening, right?
But that's the idea. The idea is seeing is not believing.
Right.
What your senses report to you is not reality.
Right.
What your senses report to you is imagination. Without exception.
So any thought you can have about your perception is imagination.
You got it. You cannot think a real thought. It's axiomatic. There are no exceptions to that, including the thought I just gave you.
So we ought to just be quiet then.
And is quiet's just another mind state.
Yeah.
That's not real either.
Don't take anything seriously.
Yes. Yes. The yogi quits believing their mind. I cannot think a real thought. Neither can anybody else.
But you keep acting anyway.
And is the action real? You keep acting in a dream.
Yeah.
Did you act in your dream, Molly?
Yes.
Was it real?
No.
Yeah. So throughout this chapter, Gaudapada's going to go dream state, waking state, dream state, waking state, and consistently, rationally break down all the reasons that I believe the dream is unreal, but the waking state, reality, is real. In the end, in the beginning, we said 3 mind states: waking, dream, and deep sleep. The end of this chapter, Gaudapada is going to say, well, actually, we've only got 2: dream and sleep. You got the dream at night, and you got the dream in the day.
So the reason you take this world seriously is because at some levels you believe it to be true.
It's because of this twofold process of Varana Shakti, Vikshepa Shakti Cha. Go back to the dream state. This is what Gaudapada does. We can say falling asleep is a Varana Shakti. What is the essence of falling asleep? It's the non-apprehension of myself as the waker. Isn't that what it is? Then what happens? When the mind projects the dream state, Vikshepa Shakti, the dreamer thinks it's real. So also in the waking state, first is avidya, the non-apprehension of myself nature, avarana shakti, the non-apprehension of the truth about the phenomenal world. Sarvam kalvidam brahma, brahma satyam jagat nitya. Then when I see the projection of the names and forms, because of the prior veiling power, I take them as real.
So the veiling power results in the creation of the small self, which is like in the case
That
of
is
the,
one of the elements.
right.
Yes.
And then that from that point the whole projection starts.
And some scriptures, the Vedantins, say that ahankriti happens first. The Buddhists say it's a dependent origination.
Right.
They arise together. I don't think it matters which way you look at it. But there's 3 elements, not just 2. Ahankriti, Vishwa, Kartavya. Always When the individual arises and the phenomenal world arises, there's the feeling it's not okay. There's not enough. I'm not okay. I'll be happy when, it'll be better if. Make efforts to fix it. And you only have two ways of doing it. I either want to fix the world or I want to fix me. And the me I want to fix is not the self. It's ahankriti. And it's that kartavya that hurts so badly. Kartavya, obligatory action, struggle, inability for the mind to be at peace, to rest. And it's a dream. It's not real. Ego always says, resolve the struggle of ego. Upanishads say, drop the struggler. Drop the struggle. There's no end to the struggle as long as you take the ego sense and the world is real. And it can get so subtle, even when you're on the spiritual path. Can I talk a little bit about what you and I have talked about?
Yes, sure.
So Michael has had the idea, am I doing it right? Did I make that up?
No.
Yeah. Even your yoga, right?
It's a common theme for me.
Yeah.
Always, yeah.
Who's trying to do it right? And what's right? Do you see it? It's the same damn dynamic. Hi, Michael, have this goal, right yoga, because I want to get realized. And I gotta move toward that goal. You're spiritually butch. It's like lifting weights. And you are not unique. This is the human condition, which will use anything to set up this triple factor. Jiva Bhavana, Vishwa Vishaya, Kartavya.
I recently read this thing which said like the small self is essentially a muscle contraction in the body, and our entire efforts is to kind of resolve the contraction and feel not icky, and we do all these other things in the world to resolve it. But actually, it's
I'm
just,
not sure it's in the body. Who said that?
it was like a Buddhist sort of framing of the small self.
Yoga would say the body is a grossified form of the mind.
Right.
So whether it happens in the mind or happens in the body, I don't think that's a particularly important distinction. Yeah. All right, any thoughts on this? It is axiomatic. If you can see it, it's not real. If you can think it, it's not real. My reactions are not real. Something there is that's real. Something there is that's never subject to negation. Ground of being, Buddha nature, Brahman, Shiva, Chit, Chidakash, Chidananda. Many names. And in the end, it's Abhyupadesha, as the seventh mantra said. Indescribable. never known as a perceived phenomenal object, gross or subtle. Yet always directly known, Swayambhu, Swayam Jyoti, it's myself. Next, Karika.
Abhayorapi vaitatyam भेदानां स्थानयोर्यदि क एतान् बुद्धये भेदान् को वै तेषां विकल्पकः. If the objects cognized in both the states of dream and waking be illusory, who cognizes all these illusory objects and who indeed again imagines them?
Yes. Who am I? In what does all this rise and fall? Now the Shunyavadins, the scholiasts of the void, the followers of Sunga, will posit there's nothing there. Consciousness itself is another ephemeral factor and changeable. The knower of the table arises with the table, and ultimate reality, shunyata, void. Let's see if that's what Gaudapada says. Going up.
Kalpatyatmanatmanatma deva swam ayaya sa eva buddhate bhedat iti vedanta nishchayah. This is the definite conclusion of the philosophy of Vedanta, that the Atman, the self-luminous, through the power of its own delusion, Maya, imagines in itself, by itself, all the objects and its individual experiences both in the world outside and within. It alone is the knower of the objects so created.
So, Brahman, the ultimate reality, remember one of our Mahavakyas, I am Atma Brahma. This self is Brahman. Has inherent within it its Maya Shakti. Ashley, are you familiar with the prologue to the Gospel of John?
I'm familiar with John.
Okay, in the beginning was the Logos, was the Word.
Yes.
And the Word was God. The Word was with God, or proximate or face to face with God. And the Word was God. And was not anything made but by the Word. And that Word was the light of all humanity. And it became flesh and dwelt among us. I'm missing pieces of it. It's been a while. Do you remember that?
Yes.
This is what Gaudapada is talking about. So the Logos, the Word, the cosmic Christ is no different than Shakti. Out of Brahman waves this stuff, which is nothing other than Brahman appearing as the very material out of which creation comes about. It is face to face or proximate or with God, meaning we have that first apparent duality. And I love it when it says it is the light of the world or the light of all humanity. Who's looking out of those eyes? And those eyes, and those eyes, and those eyes. You, I love. Brahman. It is the light of awareness in every being. Right there in the Gospel of John. It's the highest Vedanta. It's everywhere once you have eyes to see it. How's that for your exegesis on scripture this morning? Do you all understand what I'm saying? What was that?
Not my boat.
There's no otherness. It is the consciousness in every being. It only seems like you are an individual person. One of the great examples. We have room space and we have cup space. Is there space in the cup, or is the cup in space? Akash, regular space. Cup space. Gatakash, hot space. I don't know how to say cup in Sanskrit. Magic trick. Pay attention to the cup space. Have I moved space? Yes? No? Lean forward a foot. Did yourself move forward a foot? Are you in the body, or is the body in you? Did you walk around this office in the dream?
No.
Yes, no.
No.
No. Were you sitting at a desk?
Yes.
Okay, but did you turn and move?
Yes.
Did your body move in the bed at home?
No.
You went nowhere. Yourself is not inside you. Your body, mind, intellect, and that ahankriti is in self. Your body, mind, intellect, and the ahankriti is not sentient. You are sentient. But you go nowhere. All right, next verse,
Jim, I have a tangential question.
please.
So why, like, isn't all this creation there for our? There's got to be some reason why it was.
Why?
created for our.
Why does it have a reason? That's like saying, why does light travel at 186,000 miles per second, not 187,000 miles per second? Did God have trouble counting?
No, that's just our human way of measurement. But light travels.
But why? Why at that speed? Is there an answer to that question?
No, that's why is gravity at a certain.
It just is.
Yeah.
So we got to be careful not to attribute human qualities to Brahman. Hebrew scripture says we are made in the image and likeness of God. We have to make sure we don't make God in the image and likeness of people. Does your God have human emotions? Oh, God's angry with me. You do things for a reason.
For myself.
Hmm?
It's for myself.
Brahman doesn't do things for a reason. Brahman doesn't even really do anything. It appears. Why is not a particularly useful spiritual question. Go back to Shankara's 7 questions in Vivekachudamani. What is bondage? How has it come about? How does it continue to exist? How do I get out of it completely? What is the not self? Who is the real self? What is the process of discrimination between the two? Notice there's no why. If Brahman has a reason, it's way above my pay grade.
And any reason is probably a limited understanding anyways.
Of course, it's an idea, it's not real.
Right.
Would it be like clay wouldn't ask why there's a pot because it's just clay, whether it's pot or jar?
Good point.
So it would never, from clay's perspective.
It just is.
From clay's perspective.
All right, next one.
Vikara Rotyap Paranam. Vikaratyo Paran Bhavat. Antachitte Vyavasthitan Niyatascha Bahishchitta Evam Kalpa Yate Prabhu. The Lord, the Atman, with his mind turned outward, variously imagines the diverse mundane objects of both the outer world and the inner world, which are already there in his mind as vasanas or samskaras or desires. The Atman, again, with his mind turned within, imagines in his mind various ideas and objects.
Yes. So, for the individual being, we have Stula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, Karana Sharira. Gross body, subtle body, causal body. My physical body and my world, gross body. Thoughts, feelings, images, memories, subtle body. My vasanas, causal body. So here, consciousness, when it strikes the subtle intellect and peeps through the mind and the senses, sees the imaginary Vishwa, waking state, reality, Vishaya, the objects perceived by the senses. Consciousness, when it strikes the subtle intellect and peeps only in the subtle body, perceives a world that's the interior imagination. Consciousness, when it strikes the subtle intellect and illumines only pure ignorance, only my vasana bandha, illumines the vasanas, which then sprout as the subtle body, sukshma sharira, and the gross body, stula sharira, and Vishwa, the waking state reality. It all depends on where this illumination takes place. Now, that light of awareness is beyond the subtle intellect. I don't know why they put a B in subtle. Never could understand. Any thoughts on this? Now, all of these constructs are maps, not territory. Oh, is this the intellect, or is this the mind, or is this the, people get all hung up on that stuff. And it's like if you go on Google Maps and you type in Marin Headlands, they'll show you all sorts of maps. There'll be elevation. There'll be all the roadways. There'll be water sources. But that's very different than taking your car and driving up to the top of Mount Tam and getting the totality of the experience of the Marin Headlands. So don't get hung up on these various layers and levels and stuff like that. They're map, they're not territory. You, at the level of your equipment, are the territory. Is that useful? Otherwise, people get all hung up on the lists. All right, going on.
चित्तकाला हि ये तस्तु द्वयकालाश्च ये बहिः कल्पिता एव ते सर्वे विशेषो नान्य हेतुकः. Both are mere imaginations, those that are cognized within as long as the thought of them lasts, as well as those that are perceived by the senses which conform to 2 points of time. There is no other special ground for differentiating one from the other.
Yes. So if you imagine an elephant, now let go of that imagination and imagine a mango. So as long as you imagine one, it's perceivable in your interior. You imagine something else, and the other one goes bye-bye. In the waking state, the same thing happens. I perceive a now through the senses. When I get in the car and drive someplace else for a different now. And from the standpoint of my perception, the other one is gone. But in the waking state reality, I say, yeah, but it still really exists. Your house is still where it was when you left it this morning. But Gaudapada is saying here, the simplicity of it. The phenomenal world is unreal. And the proof of its unreality is that it is seeable. If it is objectively cognized phenomena, it's imagination. Whether you, the individual, have imagined it or it's Ishvara's imagination is unimportant. It's not real. Don't take it seriously. It's all going to be okay. What about war and famine? Yeah, it's like a nightmare. I'm not saying that it's not a really painful experience. In your dream, did you have anxiety and fear? Molly? What feelings did you have?
Doubt and uncertainty.
Okay. The point being, To the dreamer, that seemed very real.
Yes.
Wasn't very comfortable, was it?
Correct.
Yeah, there was suffering,
Yes.
but it wasn't real. So we never say that people aren't having the experience of suffering. Vedanta is not cruel. But upon awakening, there was no office, and your doubt and uncertainty wasn't rooted in anything real. Now, for waking up from a dream, there's a sequence. You were dreaming, then you wake up, and now you're awake. But for the yogi, they perceive the world with their knowledge is Brahma Satyam Jagan Nitya illusion. Now, in deep samadhis, this becomes direct experience. The goal of this chapter is to break down my rigidly held belief system that the phenomenal world is inherently real, joy-giving and misery-producing. If I could just begin to doubt that, then it can begin to let go. But as long as I'm convinced they done it to me, no hope for freedom. Right, next one.
Avyakta eva ye tastu skuta eva cha ye bahihi kalpita eva te sarve visheshastvam yantare. The subjective imaginations that exist only within the mind, known as the unmanifest, as well as those that exist in the outer world in a manifest form as perceived objects, are both mere imaginations. The only difference between them is in the sense organs by means of which the outer world is seemingly cognized.
Now, this is an interesting point. When we go through the Panchakosha of Shankara, the 5 sheaths, we describe the physical body, skin, bones, flesh, filled with feces and urine, and it has 5 senses: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. Then we go to the subtle body. And Shankara says it also has 5 senses: hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, seeing. Wait a minute, are they in the physical body or are they in the subtle body? Yes. The physical body is actually like a mask. So it's Halloween. You go to the local store with your kids and you get a costume. You get a Richard Nixon mask. Put on the mask. I'm Richard Nixon. And you see through the eye holes, and there's a mouth, and you go with Richard Nixon's tongue. But actually, these are golaya, they're holes. You can take the mask off. So when you're sound asleep and the stereo is playing, are you hearing the music? Well, the sound is traveling through the airwaves. It's going in, vibrating your eardrums, stuff like that. But you could be someplace completely different, listening to a conversation or something. So the sense organs occur on a subtle level, but also on a gross level. What Gaudapada is saying is, in fact, both are just imagination. Now, the practice that's implied with this, as we move through the world, endeavor to keep the mind deeply introverted. And as data comes to us from the sense organs, just let it pass through. I like to use this example. Gobbledygook, fripty fropty, woosle woosle. How does that make you feel, Michael?
Neutral or a bit funny.
Huh?
Funny / neutral.
Did it upset you in any way, shape, or form?
No.
You're really a smart fellow and good looking. And not only that, you're a great yogi. And I'm so happy that you're here. How does that make you feel? Good. You're an idiot. You've got a mind like a brick. You're so full of ego. You might as well just shoot yourself because you're never going to get this stuff. How does that make you feel?
No, it's good.
All of it is illusion. It's just data coming in through the senses. Let it all pass through. Nonsense, positive, negative, all of it is asat, anitya, vaidya. Just let it pass through. This is the practice. Now, here is the secret. Most of us are willing to renounce our reactivity to negative sense perceptions. Why is it so hard? I was talking with a fellow this past week, and he's a manager, and his whole team ganged up on him to tell him what a terrible manager he is and how wrong he is. He was just devastated, just devastated. How does that happen? He couldn't let it go. Because when the team said, "Oh, you're so wonderful, you're so loving, you do such a good job, we love you," he drank it like new wine. Where we get attached and identified is almost always on the positive side. Once you buy that piece of bullpucky, you're stuck. You're attached and identified. That makes sense? Then when the opposite idea comes around, notice that I didn't say if. I said when. It always does. Or as Nisargadatta Maharaj says, worldly happiness and worldly suffering are the same thing. It's like the heads and tails of a coin. Can't have one without the other. So here Gaudapada says, see them all as mithya, illusion. Anitya, not eternal. peaceful. Dream. Just let it all pass. So what he's saying here is not only the philosophy of the Advaita Vedanta, but it implies practice. Be chill. Shitala. Any thoughts on this practice? Now, if Swamiji used to see us being attached or identified with some issue, he just poke and poke and poke until we dropped it. And if he poked and you were just empty and didn't react, you'd let it go. Now, Guru in the form of life experience does the same thing. Who got upset this week? Tell me this is the first time you've had this feeling. Is it?
No.
Same dynamic, only the names and faces change. Guess where it came from? My attachment, my identification. Guru in the form of the world. Perfect opportunity to do penance. And it'll keep showing up for how long?
Until you let it go.
Yes. It's a spiritual axiom that if I'm disturbed, no matter the cause, I'm the one with the klesha. I'm the one with the dosha. I'm the one with the attachment, the expectation, the identification.
So it's really getting rooted in I am Brahman.
Hmm?
It's getting more rooted in I am Brahman.
That's the antidote, yes. Jnana Hadhyasa. All right, next
I was
one.
going to say, last question.
Go ahead.
There can be negative mind states though without suffering. So just having a negative, say you're more sad than happy, it doesn't necessarily mean there's attachment per se, right?
You can work that one out for yourself. If it's just nameless sadness, it's just mind, something emerging from the past, or tuning into the group mind, yeah. But you need to make sure that you're not sad because you didn't get what you want.
Yeah.
Can you see the difference?
Yeah.
All right, next verse.
Jivan kalpayate purvam tato bhavan prithagdhavan bahyanadhyatmikaschaiva yatha vidyasta thasmritihi. First of all, the egocentric attitude, jiva bhavana, is projected and thereafter follow imaginations of the various entities, both objective and subjective. As is the knowledge, so is the memory of it.
So, many of the scriptures will use language like jivatman, individual soul, to be distinguished from paramatman, supreme self. Here, Gaudapada uses my favorite term, jiva bhavana. Bhavana means a feeling or an attitude. First comes the feeling that I'm a person. It's not an entity. Now, it's not just the thought, oh, I'm having a crappy day, or oh, everything is so wonderful for me. That's kind of just thoughts going by. Jiva Bhavana, it's more like deep hypnotism, more like what happens in the dream state. So back to Mully's dream. So you dream you're in this office, and you had a dream body, and you had a dream ego identified with it. It seemed like that was you. Wasn't that your experience?
Yes.
That's our normal experience. Sometimes we have a lucid dream, but most of the time that's our dream experience. That is Swapna Jiva Bhavana, the manifestation of the ego state in the dream. But upon awakening, the dream Mully was imagination. When I dream, I always see perfectly. It's wonderful. And I'm never fat. And I can walk up hills without getting tired. It's marvelous. You guys are all young. You don't have to worry about dreams like that yet. But what Gaudapada is saying is there's no person there. It's like when you go to a casino in Las Vegas, and there's a stage hypnotist, and they hypnotize somebody into thinking they're a chicken, or they have to chase the dog off the stage. It seems so real. You're in the audience, you know it's not real. But to the person who's hypnotized, oh, it's powerful. Jiva Bhavana is like that. When the mind is under the throes, the thraldom of Jiva Bhavana, it seems like I'm a person. Now, very important point here. The scriptures say ignorance is beginningless. What does that mean?
Never really begun.
There's no start or end to it. Oh no, there is an end.
We have no perception of it coming upon us. For example, back to Mully's dream. How'd you get in that office? How did you?
I just appeared.
Yeah. And in the dream, you never questioned how you got there. See what I mean?
Mhm.
They don't roll the credits at the beginning of a dream. This is Molly's dream about the office, starring whoever else was in the dream. That's not how it happens. Your mind projects an unexamined, unassumed cause and effect past. A dream is beginningless. What do you mean? I went to sleep at midnight. I think I began dreaming this morning. We're not talking about it in that way. We're talking about the direct experience. You have no experience of the dream coming upon you. It has a beginning, but it has no beginning, but it has an end. You know, when you wake up. Listen very carefully. Jiva Bhavana has no beginning. So you can be here in class or in a deep meditation, and all the ignorance is gone. And it's very clear, oh, Chidananda Rupaham, my nature's bliss consciousness. And then a vasana gets triggered. You never see it. All of a sudden, you're a person with an issue. And you never see it come upon your mind. Is this making sense?
Yes.
So, this is your lifeline. If I think I'm a person, I'm deluded. You must drill that into your waking state mind. So you can take the steps to wake up, which simply means stop, thin the mind, introvert your attention, notice the node. Oh, there's no Jim there. That's right. Smarami aham brahmasmi. I remember. I am Brahma. So this Jiva Bhavana arises. First is Avarana Shakti. I go to sleep to my essential nature. And you could be walking across Grand Avenue and be spiritually sound asleep. And Jiva Bhavana arises. I'm Jim. I'm Saundarya. I'm Michael. And then all of a sudden, Kartavya. I gotta get there then, not here now. And it seems so real. Such is the incredible power of mind. So it's important to understand this subtle meaning of the beginninglessness of ignorance. It is not quite the same as Sanatana, ancient or really old. It's that too. But that's not the issue. The issue is I never see it come upon my mind. It is the nature of ignorance to obscure its own beginning. But it does have an end. You can wake up from the waking state. All right, this is a good place to stop. What verse are we on for next week?
17.
17. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Namaha. Hari Om.